Hey, it's Michael, and I quickly want to get my predictions up for the Fight Night card, main evented by Deiveson Figueiredo and Joseph Benavidez. This Fight Night card coming up is seemingly getting no love, which is weird, because the main event and co-main are sneaky good fights. Besides that, there aren't a lot of household names, but those same matchups will actually have implications for the division that they're in. So this is the prediction video for the main card of that UFC Fight Night. Real quick before we get started, I just want to say that these are my picks and not any of the LAKEY team's picks. So if I fall flat on my face, blame me, give me all the flack, and I want all the smoke. So blame me. Get it? Got it? Good. So our first matchup is Lipsky versus Karolina, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but I think that while Luana is just a tad too inexperienced for the upper echelon of the women's flyweight division, I think she can beat Lipsky based on what I've seen from her so far. She's a much better athlete than Lipsky, has stopping power at 125, and she's shown that she's not incapable of handling herself on the ground. The problem I run into is that her only UFC win is against Priscilla Cachoeira, and while I get on Stefano for making fun of Priscilla Cachoeira, I do agree she's not a UFC caliber fighter. So while Karolina's performance against Cachoeira was dominant, it's Priscilla Cachoeira, and that's, again, Karolina's only fight in the UFC. Plus, Lipsky's faced the tougher competition of the two, is probably the more technical of the striker between the two, and Karolina admitting that she was sidelined with a spinal injury concerns me. Injuries are tough to get back from. Still, I'm going to take the under on this one and go with Karolina to win. I'll just take it reluctantly. Next up, Mark Marquez versus Rafael Fiziev. So, Mark Marquez is actually very interesting because after going on a 3-fight losing streak, he ends up making some adjustments to his game, takes a bit of a layoff, and then goes on a 2-fight win streak, beating guys like Joe Duffy and Lando Vernada in relatively one-sided fights. So, really good job on Mark Marquez's part for reinventing himself. And he's going to be facing off against Tiger Muay Thai standout and prospect Rafael Fiziev, who looked really good against Alex White. But again, Alex White is not Mark Marquez, and I think Mark Marquez is going to take it because Jacare has started to turn into a well-rounded mixed martial artist. He went to the takedowns against Vernada, which was real interesting and looked real good against Joe Duffy. Plus, as much as I like Fiziev's highlight reel finishes, he doesn't really have a signature win in lightweight to impress me. So give me Jacare on this one. And by the way, there's great value on Jacare if you want to put some money on him. So next one is a fight that I'm actually looking forward to because it has some big implications. Askar Askarov versus Alexandra Pantoja. Now, again, this fight is a pretty big fight because the winner is probably a fight or two away from a title shot. Also, fun fact, Askar Askarov is actually 80% deaf, which I think isn't talked about enough, especially considering how important hearing your corner is in MMA. Eat your heart out, Mike Perry. Despite that, he is 11-0-1 in MMA. Now, in fairness, most of that record is outside the UFC, as he has a win and a draw in the octagon, but that doesn't mean he can't throw down, as Tim Elliott learned the hard way when Askarov beat him in January. But he does have his work cut out for him, as Alexandra Pantoja is 6-2 in the UFC, with his last loss being to Deiveson Figueiredo. So Pantoja is seasoned and tough. I think Pantoja has the better stand-up by far, and he is a capable grappler, but I think Askarov might be the best wrestler in the division, and he's sneaky good at getting the back. Now, if both guys come correct, I think Pantoja wins this one. But the thing that worries me, if you're a Pantoja fan, is that it's known that he was training for Benavidez or Figueiredo in case he needs to step in because one of the guys couldn't make weight or the event fell through. So while he did train for Askarov, I don't think he's all the way prepared for Askarov. Plus, I know it was a while ago, but it does seem that his loss to Dustin Ortiz did expose some flaws when it comes to his wrestling. So call it a bit of a gut feeling, but give me Askarov for the win here. Next up is probably the hardest fight to call in Kelvin Gastelum versus Jack Hermanson. Now, the reason why I say this is the hardest fight to call is because both guys are frustratingly hard to get a beat on lately. Gastelum is hard to figure out in general, and while against Israel Adesanya, it gives you an instant classic, he also got a bit gun-shy against Darren Till. Meanwhile, Hermanson turns into this monster with his arm and guillotine, but then poops the bed against Jared Cannonier. So basically what you have is two guys who are hard to figure out, but can also beat anyone in this division, and you can make a case for beating each other. Hermanson can use his movement and out-wrestle Gastelum, despite Gastelum being a sneaky good wrestler, but while Hermanson's awkwardness gives guys fits, it's also what got him caught against Cannonier, and Gastelum can absolutely do the same thing Cannonier did to Hermanson, especially since Gastelum doesn't really go backwards much without a purpose. It's because of that I'm gonna say Gastelum snaps his losing streak and picks up the W here. He's hard to push back, has a massive power advantage, can evade Hermanson's strikes with head movement and footwork, plus has the striking advantage. So give me Gastelum in this one. Last up, it's the main event between Joseph Benavidez and Deiveson Figueiredo. Now, this fight is gonna be fun, it's gonna be exciting, and it's the fight that deserves to be on the main event. But it's also the fight I had the least trouble with deciding who was gonna win. I think Deiveson Figueiredo wins this one walking away. I respect Joseph Benavidez a great deal, but unless Figueiredo is greatly diminished from the weight cut or is not as sharp, I think Benavidez's only real path to winning is to gassing out Figueiredo, and that seems like it'll be a tough task to do, considering that Figueiredo has the massive power, speed, and strength advantage versus Benavidez in their first fight. So I think Benavidez is actually in over his head here. But those are my predictions, and I'm wondering to see what your predictions are. Let me know in the comments. I'm Michael from The Leg Kick. Be sure to like and subscribe, and please go watch and enjoy those fights. It's easy to support MMA when you get the numbered events, but give this one some love too. Until next time, peace.